what's next for Juno and how devs can work with it. Give it up for David, everybody.
Thanks. So I'm a front-end web developer. I'm a contractor. I work for various companies. Since last year, I work for the foundation. I'm part of the team that built Dapp. But today, I'm not here to talk about that work. I'm here to talk about what I do in the community and the last product I've built, which is Juno, and also the fact that I really like to code, basically. And the story I'm gonna tell you is, I guess, the story of any developer in the audience. Like, call it the engineer way. You know, we use tools as engineers. We face an issue or something we feel that is really stupid, and then we just go, yeah, F it, I'm gonna code it by myself, and then you release it or you use it. And it's basically what I do all the time. I get frustrated, I build something, I launch it, then 6 months later, I get frustrated by something else, I code it, I launch it, and so on and so on. And in my case of Juno, the issue I have goes a bit in the same direction as what Bob said earlier. I think there is a whole world outside, which is the world of the front-end developers. And it's not proper numbers, but at least in my mind, it's like only a few of these are currently building fully on-chain. And by this, I mean like building application, website, or whatsoever. That can be your mom's website or like a complex application. Like, I think there is a big world out there that don't do that right now. And even though it's fictional numbers, I tend to think that I'm not fully wrong, maybe a bit, but if we look at the npm.js numbers, which are the numbers, the tools that are used by the front-end developer, we see that on a weekly basis, there are like millions and millions of developers that use certain framework, like React. There is probably 1 million of users that use Ether.js, which is like a bridge to Ethereum. But there are less people that use the tools to build on the IC. So I don't say that as a critic. I say on the other hand, I think that there is really like a big, big opportunity for the IC. And I want to reach all these developers outside that have never heard about Web3, never heard about the IC. And I think they never heard of it, or they don't want to jump on Web3 because it's not easy to jump on in that world. You know, you got all these new concepts to learn as a developer, like what's a canister, for example, on the IC, what's a node provider, ledger, and so on. Like all this weird wording that it takes like months to understand. Also, often you have to learn new coding languages. So on the IC, it's maybe Motoko or Rust. In the other blockchain, it's the same. You often have to use a new language. Fortunately, on the IC, there is also the TypeScript bridge, but still, it takes some effort to go there. And as a front-end developer, you are used to a certain toolchain. And when you come to the Web3, it's another toolchain. So all these things makes harder to develop. So, yeah, like I told you, I'm an engineer's way. So a Sunday morning, I woke up and I thought, all right, I'm gonna solve that by myself. Yeah, maybe not everything, but at least I'm gonna try to help to reach all these developers outside. And I think we can do that, or I can do that, by making the concept a bit more simple, more Web 2, like trying to scope the concept so that people don't have to learn too much things, but kind of stay in their bubble while exploring what's Web 3. Also, I'm a front-end developer, and I want to allow people to build apps on the IC without having to know what it is to save data, without having to know what it is to upload a file. So I want to help developers build application by just taking care of the UI and the UX. And I also want to provide the same toolchain. And by having less concept, no new language to learn, no new toolchain to learn, I think there is less friction to jump in that Web3 world. So that's why I come up with that idea of Juno, which is the name of the last project I launched, which is kind of the similarity to the serverless concept we have on Web 2. You know, like there is this product or platform, which are Google Firebase, Amazon Amplified, and so on and so on. There's tools where, as a developer, you go there, and they're gonna obfuscate all the complexity of the infrastructure. They're gonna deliver you some easy library that you can use to build. And as a team or a solo developer, you can build a whole project without the need to invest to have like your own server and so on. So my idea is to do exactly the same on blockchain. Basically, like we have the IC, and I had Juno at the top, and then there is like millions of front-end developers, maybe not millions, but a few front-end developers that are gonna use these tools to build awesome apps easily. My ultimate goal is basically to say that any developer with bare JavaScript know can use my tools and maybe in a weekend can launch an app. And that's the goal. And yeah, more than a goal because it works out. So the idea behind Juno is that I provide a platform that gives opinionated feature. So when a developer gonna launch something with Juno, he got the authentication, so or she. They don't have to think about how it works. They just got a plug-and-play authentication, a plug-and-play simple database, a plug-and-play file storage, and so on, with the hosting and the analytics, so all the tools you need to launch anything on the web. Well, so I've built that platform, I launched it, but because it's a community event, I wanted to share a bit what is it to develop an IC on the side, because I've built that like on the weekend, at nights, on Friday. So like, yeah, a bit sharing my personal experience. So I've built that project in 3 months, but it's 3 months because, like I told you, it was on the side. And it was roughly 500 commit. I don't know if it's a lot or not a lot or less. I've got no idea, but yeah, there was a bit of work behind it. Yeah, I got some colleagues who always ask me, oh, I managed to have a work and still manage to do stuff on the side. So I'm really fortunate because I live in Switzerland, so I can manage to work 4 days a week and then keep 1 day or, yeah, let's say 1.5 or 2 a week to work on my stuff. So, yeah, it's a chance and I take it, basically. And when I do this project, which is 3 months, there is always 1 month where I go a bit crazy and there is nothing less that matters anymore. It's like just code 7 days a week, night and day. And that's where I make a big push to reach the goal to really ship fast something out. Because I really hate when I start something and I don't finish it with code. I really want to code, launch. If it works, it doesn't matter. But I want to reach the point. And yeah, I also got other colleagues that always ask me, yeah, but where did you really find that time? So I don't have a girlfriend, which is, yeah, my mom is not really happy with that, but that's a fact. And also some friends said that I should probably go to a psychotherapist because there is probably a reason why I code too. But anyhow, I got some time because of that. And some people like music, some people do cooking or whatever. when I just code. I mean, it's like, I like it, it's fun, you know, you build bricks and you do some stuff. And yeah, I'm not that young anymore, so every day I woke up at 6, on the weekend at 7, so, you know, I got time, the day is long. When it comes to Juno, I also wanted to share a bit what was the organization of the project, even though I built it alone, because I'm also used to work as a project manager, business analyst, and so on. So for me, it's kind of like natural to always organize everything. And when I start a project, I already know what's going to be the time frame and so on. But maybe to share a bit the experience if it can help anyone someday. So when I start a project, I always build a proof of concept. I guess most of us do that. And in the case of Juno, I was fortunate because most of the things and concepts I reused in Juno, I had already built them on the IC in other projects, like I built Cycle.watch or I built Papyrus, that used to be a blogging platform on the IC. So, okay, I have rewrite everything in Rust, but it's the same concept. And so I still had to check that it worked out. And after 2 weeks, when it worked out, I began to work on the project itself. And I really focused on the core. I always think that in a product, you got like a thin line, which is like the features you really, really need to start and you really need to have. So the idea is to build that and to not care about anything else. Look, all the nice, shiny things that you can have can come at the end. So I focus on that core, and when it begins to work well, then I begin to think on the design. And for the design, I work with a friend of mine, which is Didier, and it always works like I build the UX, I make a bit the UI, and then I call him, I say, hey, look, I've got a new project, and then we make a chat of 1 hour, and 2 weeks later, I get 200 icons and screenshots and whatever, and then I implement everything. But before doing that, I always need to find the name of the product, you know, like what it's gonna be. And in the particular case of Juno, it was a bit more difficult because, as I told you before, I wanted to make all the concepts simpler, so I had to find a way to solve that. So finally, when all the pieces come together, I had the design and I implemented it, I finished the documentation, I launched the website, which is super important for the SEO presence. And as you can see, I began to start to showcase the solution to people like in January, something, after more than a month. So that's a bit the engineer way again, because generally speaking, if you really want to start a product, you first try to see if people really need the product. And here I just develop it and then I see if maybe there will be some users. But I assumed I was not that wrong. Right. I wanted to show you that beautiful proof of concept. And really, I like the UI. You know, I'm a front-end developer and I like to make beautiful things, but that was not like the most beautiful things I ever built. But still, I mean, I already had all this concept of authentication, the fact to have projects, the idea to have like a simple database, a CDN, and that was fully functionable after 2 weeks. But then I iterated for 3 months from that. So, speak a lot. I'm not going to do live coding, but I thought maybe we can try to launch a small live Polling Dapp, and then at the end, maybe we can have a small vote. But just want to show you that in 4 steps, with the tools I've built, we can launch a Dapp on the IC. So the first things we have to do is to create what I call a satellite, because I took that space imagery, and the satellite is a customer smart contract, but I call it on steroid, but it's not really on steroid. It's just that it comes with a set of API in function. So the developer goes in the platform, creates a satellite, and that satellite comes with everything built in. And when it's ready, the developer has access to various tutorials, various examples, and so on. But when it's ready, the contract is online, and everything is already there. The sole things the developer should do is now building the front end. So the second step, because we want a polling app, we want people to be able to sign in. So I'm going to put here. Oopla. With only a few lines of code, I mean, it's like probably 10 lines of code, I've plugged internet identity, I've plugged NFID, and that's it. It works out. So every time a user of my dApp will use that dApp, a user will be created in the smart contract, and then every services I will offer will be authenticated. Like, for example, here, when I jump in my console, I see all the users that have used my app anonymously. In that case, it's probably me, but yeah, anyhow. When it's done, the same way, we want to save data. So as we have identified user, we can also, with few lines, save data in that smart contract. So it works that way that you have a list of collection. So in that case, for example, for today, I'm going to create a collection ICP community conference. I can say if everybody can write or just the owner of the data and so on and so on. So there is a permission scheme. But at the end, the JavaScript developer adds a few lines of code in his dApp or her dApp, and data are saved. And likewise, as a developer, I can go in the console and I see what was saved. But finally, the developer is just going to sign in, going to say, I want to have access to that canister, and I hit deploy, and it goes live. That's not my most beautiful slide, not the most informative neither, but what I wanted to share here is the fact that the experience here is really close to a Web 2 experience. And I can say it's close because I may or may not have cloned the Google Firebase experience, but it's really like, it's zero knowledge. You know, you just hit login, you click a checkbox, OK, and you are authenticated to deploy your app. I hope it's simple, I hope. So that's it. OK, so that was for me. If you want to build easily an app, you can go to Juno Build, and if you have questions, you can just ask me or catch me later on. Thank you.